In this episode of Akram's Ideas, it's all about the pumpkin, cardi, and dress pattern from Coco Wawa Crafts, so stay tuned! Hello and welcome. I'm Akram Tagady Burith, and you're watching Akram's Ideas, bringing creative and crazy ideas to life. In this episode of Akram's Ideas, I'm sharing with you the reveal of my cardigan for the Cozy Cardigan Challenge. To see more episodes like this, be sure to click the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to get notified of new videos. And of course, it would be no surprise that I've chosen to make the Coco Wawa Crafts pumpkin cardi / dress pattern for this project. Now, I've actually made two versions of the pumpkin. I'm wearing the cardigan now, but I've actually previously made a dress version. So without further ado, let's get into a bit of a pattern review for the pumpkin. If you've watched Akram's Ideas in the past, it's no surprise that I would choose a Coco Wawa Crafts pattern for this challenge. I am a big fan of Coco Wawa Crafts patterns and have enjoyed every single pattern that Anna's released. Now, I actually got to be a tester for the pumpkin pattern, and I actually sewed the dress version as for the testing of the pattern, and this was back in early September, late August. The pumpkin cardi / dress pattern recently got released. I think it was at the end of September, early October. But I had the opportunity to be a tester, and when I saw the name of the pattern was pumpkin, I was like, squee! First off, I love the autumn season. If you checked out my autumn plans, I talk about how much I love the autumn season. And when I saw that the pattern was named pumpkin, I knew that I wanted to make something in a pumpkin color. So I had some jersey in my stash that had been waiting for the perfect pattern. And as you can see, it's sort of this rusty orange color that I thought was just ideal for this project. And I actually had this color fabric in two different weights. I chose to make it all the same color because I really wanted to bring out that rusty orange color. But I did use two different textures. I used the polyester knit on the main body and then the cotton knit on the bands. I did this because I felt the cotton knit that I had was just not structure enough to really give the dress the weight that it needed. It would have been too droopy and drapey. And then the cotton knit was just to give it a little bit of texture and a little bit of contrast. They're pretty close to the same color, but ever so slightly there's a change of color there. And I think that may also be attributed to just a texture change between the two jerseys. Now, the pattern does have two versions. It has a cardigan version and a dress version. But when I first made the first version of the pumpkin, I really loved the idea of having a jumper dress that was buttoned down, especially since the dress has a sleeved version or sleeveless version. And I thought with the sleeveless version, I could turn it into a jumper. I could wear it with layers. It would be the perfect autumn time dress to wear around. And again, I wanted to pair it with that rust color, and I thought just the rust color alone by itself might be a little overwhelming. And I knew that it would make the perfect pairing if I were to pair it with a cream colored turtleneck like I have done here. So the construction, even just in testing the pattern, was very straightforward. It was very simple. The pattern pieces, I mean, if you're just making the dress version like this one without the sleeves, it's basically 3 pattern pieces and then you have your band pieces. So it's a really quick make. And as you can see, it's kind of a very subtle A-line dress. It comes down and it's got this button band all the way down the front. I chose to pair this up with some vintage buttons. that I had in my stash that I thought looked perfect. They have sort of a leather tone to them, so they look like they're leather buttons. At least that's how they look to me. Unfortunately, I was one button short of the set, so I used another similar-ish vintage button that I had in my stash for the top button. So as you can see, this is the way the dress looks here, and it also has pockets, side seam pockets, which are amazing. You can also choose to do welt pockets, but for the dress I thought that the side seam pockets looked best, especially for the style that I was going for with the dress. Everything's sewed up really nice. You have two neckline versions on the pumpkin. You have this square neckline or you have a V neckline. So I chose to go with the square neckline. I think the only thing that bothers me is that the cotton knit jersey is so drapey that the collar kind of has a little bit of a wave to it. It may also be that I should have pulled the collar a little tighter as I sewed it on to make it a little bit more taut. I might actually have a little bit extra fabric there. That may be an issue with it. But overall, the dress came out exactly like I wanted it. Now, one of the other features about the pattern is that it has a ruffled waistband or hemband that you have as an option. Now for the dress, I didn't want to add any ruffles or anything. I wanted to give it more of a rustic look. In my opinion, the colors and the styling here, I feel like it has a very 1970s vibe to me, late 60s. So I wanted to keep it very streamlined. So I used the straight waistband on it. And I can't help but say that I love this dress so much. As you can see on the dress form, I paired it with this cream colored turtleneck, which actually is a Freya top from the Tilly and the Buttons stretch book. When I first made this dress, I had intended to pair this with a cream turtleneck that I had in my wardrobe, or though I thought I had in my wardrobe, until I went to go look for it and realized that I had worn it until it had just basically fallen apart, and I'd gotten rid of it last autumn. So I still wanted to pair this dress with a cream turtleneck, and I thought, you know what, why not just make my own? So I used the Freya pattern to make the turtleneck, and I used the hack in the book to make a full roll neck on there. The dress is a nice loose fitting dress, which is great for the upcoming holiday season for Thanksgiving and the like. It's got those colors and it's nice and loose when you've eaten a big meal. But I actually had this lovely little ready to wear belt that I thought just paired with it so well, because it's got this sort of brown leather aspect that kind of matches the buttons and has the same tones of the dress. And it's got this sort of knit cream fabric around the sides of it, and it just cinches it in at the waist ever so slightly, that I think it just gives it a little bit more definition at the waist, which is really nice. So you can loosen it up if you've had a big meal, or you can cinch it in to give it a little bit more definition. But overall, I just really, really love this pattern. So moving from the pumpkin dress, let's talk a little bit about my latest pumpkin cardigan. Many of you may have heard of the Cozy Cardigan Challenge. This is a challenge being hosted by Amanda from I Sew A Lot and the Stitch sisters, Nikki and Rachel. Now, the idea behind it is to simply make a cozy cardigan for the autumn season. Now, last year I got to participate in this challenge, and I made the slouchy cardigan from In the Folds Patterns, and that is a free pattern download from Peppermint Magazine. I really loved the cardigan that I made last year. In fact, it's my office cardigan. I keep it in my office, and whenever I get cold, I just put it on. So the pumpkin pattern has a couple of different options to it. Besides the dress, it has a cardigan version that hits just about hip length or just below hip length. I started thinking that, you know, I have a lot of big oversized cardigans. What would be nice if I had a nice fitted cardigan that I could wear with dresses, and something that would last me from autumn and into the spring season that I could wear again with my nice frilly dresses. So I wanted something that would hit me just about the waist so that it wasn't so long and slouchy. And again, something that was more on the frilly side. So what I did to create this length is basically I took some measurements about where my waist was, and then I went back to the pattern pieces. And I determined, based on my sizes, that 2 inches below the lengthen and shorten line on the pattern was just perfect for the length that I wanted. And I still left all the seam allowance. I didn't do anything as far as for the ruffle. I just changed the length of the bodice pieces. So I cut it 2 inches below the lengthen and shorten line. For the cardigan, since I was going for something a little bit more frilly, I decided to use the ruffled waistband for it. And because I cut it 2 inches below the lengthen and shorten line, that obviously changed the circumference of the entire cardigan. So I remeasured the pattern pieces to see what the circumference was, and I then went to the ruffled pattern pieces, and I went back to the bodice pattern pieces to see what size measurement had the closest measurement to my new measurement. And I should say that for both the dress and the cardigan, I made size 5. So I went back and I measured and I determined there was a new cropped length. I believe it was size 1 had the closest match to the cropped circumference for size 5 as the final cardigan length for the bottom hem. So I just cut out size 1 for the ruffle band on all the pieces and then ruffled it up and added it to the bottom of the cardigan. Obviously for the cardigan I made the version with the sleeves. Now the sleeve version has a cuff pattern, but I thought, you know, we've got this lovely ruffle here. It needs ruffle sleeves too. So for the ruffle sleeves, I just arbitrarily added 3 inches to the length of the cuff. So I cut out the normal cuff, only adding 3 inches, so that I had 3 inches worth of some soft gathers in here, just to give my sleeves a nice ruffle to match the ruffle bottom of my cardigan here. Now you can wear this obviously as a cardigan. I do have a top underneath here, but I actually, after trying it on right after I made it, I thought, you know what, this could work as just a little sweater top. It's just by itself with a pair of jeans. That's actually how I tried it on right after I made it. I just had some jeans on and I tossed it over it and I was like, ah, this is adorable. So it works really well with just a pair of jeans. It works really well with a nice skirt. I've just got a corduroy, bottle green corduroy pencil skirt that I made, oh, way back when. I don't even remember what pattern. It was a vintage pattern. But I've just got it paired here with this green skirt. And overall, I just really love this yellow cardigan. It's a very bright yellow canary color, which I don't have in my wardrobe as far as cardigans go. I do have a couple of darker orange yellow colors, but not this bright yellow. And at first I was worried that it would be too much of a springtime color, but then I started pairing it with some of my autumn brooches and found that the colors work well. It's kind of yellow mum color, I guess you could say. So it's autumn tones, and it works well with the green skirt. I can also pair it with a brown skirt. I've got several brown skirts that I could pair this with. But I'm just really happy with how this came out. I just really love it. And it just goes to show that you can take a pattern and you can get it to fit your wardrobe as needed, especially if it's got a lot of elements that you like. Like, I really adore the square neckline. I really like the looseness. It's fitted, but it's not too fitted, so it's got a nice mix right there on this pattern. I love the neckband and how that's all put together. On the yellow one, again, I used vintage buttons for this. And I really love the addition of a ruffle at the bottom of the cardigan. There's been several Coco Wawa Crafts patterns now that include ruffles, and who doesn't love a ruffle, right? And that's exactly why I added the ruffle to the sleeve, because I just felt like it needs more ruffles, right? So overall, I'm super happy with it. I'm also super happy that I actually completed a challenge much earlier than the day before the challenge expires. So if you haven't heard or haven't completed the Cosy Cardigan challenge, I believe it runs through November 22nd. So there's still almost a full month out there before the end of the challenge. And I can't say enough how much the pumpkin cardigan and dress would be a perfect pattern to use for this challenge, but also its versatility, because you can make it into a cardigan, but you can also make it into this lovely dress. And with the dress version, again, you have the option to make it sleeveless like this, or you can make it with sleeves. One of my favorite dress versions that are out there were the dress versions that Nikki and Rachel from the Stitch Sisters made. They did a whole 1960s kind of color block version of the pumpkin dress, which is just super cute, and I almost want to like replicate that because I think it's just adorable. And that's kind of the vibe that the dress has. It's got that 60s, like I said, this version here that I made in the rust color, I feel like it has a late 60s, early 70s look to it. And so it just has that sort of subtle vintage look. And the cardigan is just as nice. You can also make it with welt pockets. For me, I didn't see any need to, especially since I was cropping the cardigan. And I just feel like sometimes when you have a tiny pocket, it just tends to add extra bulk or pull on the fabric, so I didn't want that on this particular cardigan. For the dress, I did use the side seam pockets. If I were to hack this pattern again, I think I might try to do the dress version with some patch pockets. I think that might be really nice as well. But overall, I really do love the pumpkin dress and cardi, and I'd love to hear in the comments below if you are joining in with the Cosy Cardigan challenge and what you plan to make, or if you've made the pumpkin dress slash cardi and what your thoughts are. As always, thanks for watching.
It's no surprise that I've made, let me do that again. If you've watched Akram's ideas before, you'll be no surprise that didn't make even sense. As you can see, sitting right next to me on the dress, I don't like that, dang it.